Hello guys, it's Lane here with HobbiesofaMan. Once again, today we're going to be talking about Gun Honey Blood for Blood, which is the second series for the Gun Honey story. Again, written by Charles R. Day, with art by Ang-Hor Kang, published by Titan. And under the hard case crime line, the demographic here is adult. The genres are action, thriller, and crime. This is basically what if the Bond girl was actually the action hero of the story, or, you know, what if the MCU's Black Widow actually was, you know, a femme fatale type character? And does not have an adaptation yet, but they do mention in the back of this first issue here that they do have, or they have licensed the rights for a TV show for Gun Honey, and it's just a matter of getting it done. And I think they said that they were going to do partially in the US, partially in Asia, in order to kind of accommodate for the fact that, you know, Gun Honey exists in that kind of realm. And the rating for this part of the story is a 4.5 out of 5 because of the same reasons that I gave the first part of the story a 4.5 out of 5. And it is that Charles R. Day's writing sometimes doesn't explain certain elements that are quite important clearly and makes it a little bit confusing. And so even though I really love the story, I really enjoy the setting, and I really like the artwork, the enjoyment wasn't exactly perfect because there was this slight confusion throughout the reading process, right? So yeah, here's cover number 1. This is actually cover B for issue 1. Here's cover A for issue 2. I like this cover a lot. It's actually my favorite, even though it doesn't really exactly match the female character that this is trying to represent. It looks really, really good either way. Here's number 3. This is probably my least favorite. I don't like the style that this artist has. Yoon, I think is how you say their name. And they do some covers for the next series that's coming out for Gun Honey, which is called Heat Seeker. And then here's Gun Honey number 4. This is the A cover again, and this is by Sozo Maika. And I quite like this a lot. It really fits with what happens inside the novel, or inside the issue as well. So yeah, so that's Gun Honey Blood for Blood. Let's talk about the premise here, and it's as follows. So, due to the death of Lydia Morse in Arc 1 of the story, a new threat arises, which is this woman called Philippa Sterling, who was Lydia Morse's #1 protege, and also this person that holds Lydia in very high regard, almost. I'm not really sure if she saw her as a mother figure or as a sexual figure in her life. I'm not really sure. It was a very convoluted type of thing. It really felt unhealthy, but it worked exactly perfectly for the type of character it was and for the story they were telling, so I quite like it. And so now Joanna is being hunted by Philippa Sterling, and so this story unravels as follows, right? So, you know, whatever you think is going to happen because of this probably is what's going to happen. So yeah, the plot line here is quite good. It opens up with Gun Honey, or with a Gun Honey sequence where she's putting a gun somewhere for someone else to get it. But you initially know something's off because where she's putting it is kind of ridiculous. 1, it'd be visible, and 2, no one else would be able to get it. But that's because it's not Joanna. It's actually Philippa Sterling trying to get Joanna caught, or having her MO studied so that people know to catch her, right? Then we move over to Brooke Barrow, who is now the assistant director of the associated agency she's working for, CIA, FBI, Homeland Security, whatever it is. I don't think we actually ever knew exactly what it was, but, you know, whatever it is, he's there. He actually has to go to Malaysia to talk to Joanna about what's going on, and if she's been, I think it was in California recently, or Montana, actually. Yeah, I think it was Montana, because it was kind of this out-of-the-way kind of place, because she's being framed. And it's because she helped to kill Lydia Morse in the first book, right? So, yeah, we get a big info dump on Philippa's backstory, where she comes from, what she is. Basically, she's an orphan. Her parents were not necessarily the best parents, but they weren't horrible. And it turns out that they were druggies, and they actually died due to an experimental drug that they consumed. And so she was left an orphan, and she was taken in by Lydia. And then when Lydia was killed and she saw it happening in front of her eyes, she now vowed revenge on Joanna because she's the only one left alive that helped with killing Lydia Morse, right? So, yeah. Then we get an introduction to this rich guy. His name is John Curusco, I think is what his name is. John Curso, I think is what his name is. He's some Italian dude. And this rich guy is important because he is also tied to Philippa's backstory, because he was the guy that had the money that helped the other guy that had the technical know-how for drugs to make the drugs, and they worked as a team, and they eventually split up for, you know, different reasons, and now Philippa is using him as a way to push forward her plans to kill Joanna. And so we see him, then we see Philippa doing something with his daughter. She ends up dead, and so Joanna is framed because Philippa used the same gun that Joanna had recently shot, or a similar gun, a gun that is exactly identical but different. Well, then Joanna gets caught by the police eventually, and then she's caught by the rich guy's goons. She escapes. Then Philippa plays the rich guy again, and Joanna and Brooke chase down the drug dealer for information. His name is Ernest, and they go talk to him. Eventually, we get more Philippa backstory. Actually, it's very similar to how we got backstory for Joanna in the first book. And I'm curious to see if that's going to also happen in Heatseeker, which is the series for Gun Honey. That it's not actually the Gun Honey series; is actually a spin-off story from the Gun Honey universe. And I'm curious to see if that kind of format is going to be copied over for Heatseeker as well, or if it's not going to. I'm not really sure. I'm curious to see how it goes. But so we get the backstory again. We learn who she is. We learn about her dependence to Lydia, and then we see that she shows up to kill the drug guy Ernest, and also to kill Joanna. 2 birds with 1 stone, but she doesn't succeed. There's this big fight here. Then Joanna survives, and she chases down Philippa, but she doesn't get to catch her, and so they have to go to Monaco for the final confrontation. It's very good. It's a very interesting action set piece, because it's not just action in the terms of like them fighting. There's also this kind of like show that's being put on that they're part of, because that's how the only way to infiltrate this area and also have guns with them. And it's really, really good. I really like how everything works. And it's a very good story, very good ending. And it ends with Brooke and Joanna going off on the run in order to try to avoid the government that are chasing after them. So yeah, overall, very, very good stuff. I quite like this. In terms of characters, we get introduced again to the Burrow bitch, who we finally learned is named Lydia Morris, but she's actually more of a set piece or a plot device. We get Philippa Sterling's background, and she's basically a different version of Joanna. She is a dark version, a mirror image of Joanna, and I quite like that. She's also very, very buff and badass. She's great. I quite liked her as a character. We get introduced to Giancurso, who dies, and Ernest, who also dies. So they're not really all that important, but it kind of plays back into things and is kind of meaningful. We might see them referred to again. Then in terms of world building, we get none again. However, we do kind of have a little bit more setting building. And technically, I guess we do have world building, because we learned that Lydia Morris had these protege children. This kind of like Red Room type situation. And I guess that is a world building thing, because technically, I guess no one really knows that happens in the US, but it probably does. But, you know, it's kind of a sci-fi thriller type thing that isn't necessarily realistic, right? So I guess in that sense, there is this kind of fictional world building in that sense. Artwork and fan service wise, amazing artwork. More or less the same amount of fan service as the first series, but in this case, we're dealing with 2 women instead of 1, so it's a bit different. And I quite like it. I think it works really, really well. I love Angkor Kang's artwork and the way he draws. And again, like I mentioned in the other review, I really wish that he would do some work for other companies, because I really want to see some superhero characters in his style. I think it would work really, really well. In terms of our ratings, 4.5 out of 5. Again, because it is a little bit difficult to understand the motivation of some characters sometimes. because of how they're worded or what is being said, and the fact that because there's only 4 issues, sometimes you can't get as much information out as you want. And so I think that Philippa was a little bit confusing initially. I eventually got it. I understand the character quite a bit. So I'm fine with it, but it does drop the enjoyment just a little bit, just a tiny tad, because it is a little bit confusing, right? So there you go. Those are my thoughts on Gun Honey Blood for Blood. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know your thought. Thank you guys very much for watching. See you guys later.